Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Monday. Happy almost Halloween. Oh, we got to plan something for our Halloween
Yeah, we got to
episode,
dress
Keith.
up
We got
something.
to figure something out there. But welcome in, everybody. Again, to a happy start of the week. We've got a lot of NBA news to get into. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me over on X at Trevor_Lane. That was Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, we got a new week starting here. I haven't told you this yet. I took my daughter over the weekend to her first NBA game
Oh, I love
ever.
it.
It was her first game, and she had a blast. She danced her face off trying to get on the jumbotron, and succeeded on the last
There you go.
opportunity of the game. She got on there, and she was dancing like crazy. She's 7, so that was
Yeah.
a big deal. So she had a good time.
That is amazing. I love it, man. That's so great. Yeah, I remember we took Bella to a Celtics Magic game years ago. She was little. She was probably like 5. And they invited her to go down on the court and do the high five line, but she was
Oh, cool.
wearing a Celtics t-shirt. And so the Magic were like, we're going to have to give you a Magic t-shirt to put on while you do that. So she got a free t-shirt out of the deal. So she was happy too. So,
Well, that's cool.
yeah. And she went down there. And then she to this day does not really like Nick Vucevic because he didn't slap anybody's hands. He just ran through the line. So she's out on Vooch.
Come on, Vooch. You gotta give the kids high fives, man.
Yep.
Oh,
That's great, man. That's awesome. So I love when people take their kids to their first game, and my hope is that they like the best thing that comes out of it is they're like, when can we go again? Like that,
yeah.
that's the best result. So
She
great.
had a blast. We waited long enough for her to be like into the game, be able to really watch it and not just be, bored or whatever.
Yeah.
But she definitely had a good time. She had fun screaming defense and and then dancing to the music every time that came up. So
that is so great.
It was a good experience, that's for sure.
Perfect.
All right, we got a lot of news to get into. So let's jump right in with some unfortunate news. Anthony Simons out dealing with a thumb injury. The Blazers, we know they're not going to be good this season, but they need their guys out there. And Anthony Simons is a really talented scorer. Could definitely use him out there on the floor. The Blazers aren't going to rush anybody for injuries or anything like that this season, but still unfortunate that a guy like Simons isn't going to be available here.
Yeah, this isn't about what it means win-loss wise, because I don't think it really changes anything.
No.
It's more about the missed opportunity for reps with Simons and Scoot Henderson and DeAndre Ayton and Shaedon Sharpe, and they're kind of younger core guys moving forward that you hope are in the mix. It's that's what you miss. And when you're a rebuilding team, you're going to lose those games anyway, so that part doesn't matter. But you want those reps and that time, that evaluation time, because what Portland's going to miss out on, he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. So that's going to be probably somewhere in the range of, let's say 25-ish games, I'll guess, by the time he's back and fully up to speed and playing again. So that's a third of the season, and that's just a third of the season where you didn't really figure out, all right, Henderson and Simons, is that our backcourt of the future? Do we need to go with Shaedon Sharpe? Do we need to move Simons? Do we need to do something different? So that just becomes a little bit of a challenge with that side of it. Even if, I know a lot of people looked at it and were like, well, dude, who cares? Like the wins a lot, they're going to lose anyway. Yeah, that's true. But you're trying to get that evaluation time with those guys.
Exactly. It's that, and especially this is an important part of the season to have that evaluation time because, and I'm not saying they're going to make any crazy moves or anything, but this needs to inform your decisions at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And again, not that it's likely that they just move on from Simons, but maybe. I mean, that's certainly not outside the realm of possibility. And so if you don't have this evaluation time to find out what do you have and what don't you have, that can certainly be a setback for you and negatively impact your ability to make what could wind up being another important personnel decision here for the Blazers.
Yeah, even a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, right? There's some trickle down to this because now it increases the likelihood you hang on to him for a little while just because you don't want to go into your games with Scoot Henderson and then really two-way guys as your on-ball players. So you want to be in a spot where, all right, hey, Scoot, let's say he has one of those games, and he's going to at some point. I love him. He's one of my favorite young players in the league, but he's going to have a game where he's going to have like 4 turnovers in the first quarter. He's going to take a couple bad shots because he's young. That's what young players do. Yeah. So you pull him out, put him on the bench, put Brogdon in. Just DeAndre Ayton had a small seal, and you took a contested 25-footer. We got to work the ball in there, and those are the kind of things. If you don't have a guy like that, because now you don't have Simons too, it just turns into, all right, who are we going to for this? Who's going to be the guy to put a little bit of pressure on the kid here, who's really the future of the franchise. So it just gets a little messier than it needs to be. It's not the end of the world by any means. As long as he is back in the 4 to 6 week window, then it'll be okay. But it's just lost time that, that's the sucky part when you're trying to figure it out as a franchise who's just trying to sort through all your options for the new direction.
All right. Bismack Biyombo signing with the Memphis Grizzlies. And this, I've been wondering, where is Bismack Biyombo? For a little while there, he was one of the top bigs available on the market. I mean, the market was pretty thin, but it's like, why is Biyombo still unsigned? This makes a ton of sense. And maybe this was what Biz was waiting for, was for an opportunity like this to come up, because the Grizzlies, you can just see it when you watch them play. You've got Jaren Jackson Jr. and Xavier Tillman is largely taking on the job of defending the other team's big physical player. We saw him quite a bit against Jokic, against the Nuggets. He's been taking on that role so that Jaren Jackson doesn't have to. But then after you get past those two guys, there's not a lot left in the middle for the Grizzlies. So there's a clear opportunity to be the primary reserve 5 here for Biyombo. And again, the Grizzlies badly need him, and this is an opportunity for minutes for Biyombo. So I think it's a win-win for both sides here.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said on the court, especially with Santi Aldama also out right now.
Yes.
They don't have an extra big on the roster. It's Tillman and Jackson, and then a bunch of guys kind of masquerading as big men, like what do they call him? Big body David Roddy, right? It's he's a big body, but he's 6'4". So you're not exactly saying, hey, go out there and guard Jokic, right? That's tough. And they haven't gone to Kenneth Lofton Jr. at all. It seems like they kind of know that's not really a direction they want to go. I thought this is a good opportunity too to talk about how this is going to happen. Just fundamental tenet of the show is a little bit of education. So what's going to happen here with the Grizzlies with Ja Morant, because he has a suspension of more than 6 games, he can be placed on the suspended list after 5 games. So what that does is that actually creates a roster spot for Memphis. So he'll be they'll get through their 5th game on the 1st. So he'll go on the suspended list after that game. And then for the remaining 20 games of his suspension, they'll sign Bismack Biyombo. My guess is Bismack Biyombo will sign on a non-guaranteed contract. Can't be 10-day contracts. It's too early for those. Those don't start until early January. Excuse me. So what we're going to see here is he'll come in on a non-guaranteed contract. And then when we hit that 20-game or I guess 25-game marker, after that, when Morant is eligible to return, because he has to come immediately off the suspended list, it's not one of these things where he may not play for a couple more games because they may want to ramp him up and have him ready to go. But he has to come off the suspended list. The Grizzlies will have to make a move. At that point, it may be, all right, we're going to waive Biyombo, or they may look at him and be like, you know what, he's become too important for us. We're going to waive somebody else instead. My guess earlier in the preseason was, before Steven Adams went down for the year and then Aldama got hurt, I thought they were going to bring Shaq Harrison back in, who had done a good job for them with the hustle. He's a guy who's been in the NBA, because they don't have a lot of ball handling on this roster either. But they clearly, the big spot is a much more important position of need right now. So that's the way this is going to work. And then there'll be another transaction to come right around Christmas time when Ja Morant is eligible to return. And they'll have to figure it out because they'll have to get back into roster compliance then.
Yeah, so that's great detail there, Keith, on exactly how this is going to go down and how Bismack Biyombo is going to join this team. I still think the Grizzlies, they can be certainly a factor in the Western Conference. Again, they were a team that I predicted to kind of fall out of things in the West because of these injuries. but it's more just a statement of how good the Western Conference is going to be and how deep it's going to be this season. But biz to the Grizz. I should have
Well, the
landed on that
Grizzlies,
earlier.
yeah,
It took me too
already
long to find that.
0-3, right?
What's that?
They're already 0-3. Like,
Yeah.
that's tough. I mean, and they're as of right now, as it stands, them, Houston, and Portland are all the 0-3 teams that are in the league. So it's not, their season's not over by any means, but you don't want to look up and be like 2-12. As you're halfway through Morant's suspension, then all of a
or
sudden,
even
it's
2-10.
Yeah, 2-2. Yeah, whatever it is, right? You just hit those spots, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh no. And I know where you're going with that.
The Lakers did that last season, 2-10. It's not fun. It's not a fun place to be. That's for sure.
No, because it makes every single game almost a must win down the stretch, and that's not the Grizzlies maybe because they're younger, better positioned for it, but yeah, not where you want to be.
All right, let's talk a little bit about James Harden, who is now back with the 76ers. Apparently, security will let him around the team now, so that's good. He's got security clearance. If you guys missed that story, he was asked by security not to get on the team plane last week as this story gets more and more bizarre. But James Harden back with the 76ers, supposed to practice. I believe it's tomorrow. Yes. He's going to practice with the team. That should mean that, in theory, maybe we're not far off from seeing James Harden on the court with the 76ers.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like we're getting really close. I don't know if that'll be playing on Wednesday or not, or if it'll be later in the week, but sounds like we're getting pretty close. And by all accounts, he took part in everything on Tuesday. They did a walkthrough, not Tuesday, Sunday, rather. He did a walkthrough with the team, which was essentially shoot around ahead of their game, and then did film work with the team. He was involved at what level we don't know, but he was there and involved. And now he's going to have his full live practice. Nick Nurse said he just needs some live work before he's ready to get on the court. And that's no different than if this was a normal type situation where a player had been away for a week and a half. You would want him to get some live on court work before you just throw him into a game. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, right now Philly looks okay without him, right? They went 2-1 in their first 3 games. Tyrese Maxey is playing great, really good player. So yeah, here we are. I'm guessing this means we're going to see James Harden play, and then that'll obviously be kind of must-watch TV whenever it's announced he's available to play, to see, 1, do they play him, and 2, what does he do when he's on the court? Like, those are going to be the things we'll be watching for.
Well, speaking of must-watch TV, NBA viewership is up 13% so far in the new season. Keith, what do you attribute that to? What's creating this massive? It must be the in-season tournament that has everybody excited, right?
Yeah, it must be, even though that hasn't even started yet. So this was based off of the 6 national TV games. We heard after opening night, which was Lakers, Nuggets, Suns, Warriors, that the ratings were down some. That to me makes sense because you had the Lakers and Nuggets forced into a time slot that's not really their time slot at 7:30 Eastern. That's a 4:30 start for Lakers games. A lot of Laker fans were still at work on a Tuesday. And then Nuggets, that's what a 7 o'clock local start. No, I'm sorry, a 5:30 local start for them because they're 2 hours. So again, were people even fully home from work and were you into other stuff or whatever it was. So that one, and then the second game, that one is always a little less of a draw unless it's the actual ring game, which is always just a bit of a weird situation. And I wonder if people were a little like, oh, Bradley Beal's out, like this isn't the matchup. But then you had Celtics, Knicks, and Mavs, Spurs. So obviously, new look Celtics playing the Knicks, big TV markets. They did well. Spurs, Wembanyama, so that did well. And then the third night, you had Sixers, Bucks. So Sixers drama, Bucks with Damian Lillard. That was the opener for both of those teams. And then Suns, Lakers in a normal time slot for both of those teams in the evening, and those games all really drew well. It was the first time the 6 games in opening week on national TV all drew more than 2 million viewers. So that's good news. So I think it's just people are excited for the league where it's at, and to see new faces and new places and guys like Wembanyama and all this stuff. So to me, another sign the league is doing well for this. And this came kind of on the heels of a report of TV contracts may not be exactly what they want them to be. And some of these local TV deals are going different routes and all that stuff. But then you also had the idea of Amazon saying, hey, we want to create an NBA night package similar to what we created with the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have one of those that'll really drive things. So my gut tells me the NBA is still going to do just fine in their next media rights deal, and they'll come away perfectly okay.
And you have to imagine, like, Adam Silver now has this stat everywhere he possibly can, making sure Amazon, TNT, whoever, ESPN, everybody knows, hey, our viewership is up 13%. Wouldn't you like to get some of those eyeballs? He probably has it going on his outgoing message now on his voicemail at this point, just making sure everybody knows that they're up 13%. Because I'm sure he's ecstatic.
I'm sure if the in-season tournament, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit, if it does well also, then they're going to be trumpeting that as, hey, who wants to, does anybody want to buy exclusive rights to the in-season tournament nights? Like, what does that look like? And those kind of things. So, the NBA is going to do all right for themselves. So they'll continue to push. The big thing that's going to continue to involve a good deal of eyes on it is what happens with the local TV contracts.
Yes.
Those are starting to take a lot of different paths and in that, and some of them may work, some of them may not work. Some of them are like the Jazz doing theirs. Sounds like there's been some real hiccups for people who are Jazz fans, but maybe they are tripping into the Nuggets realm of viewership.
Oh yeah.
Those kind of things.
It's a mess.
So it just gets super messy with those things. But I know, Ryan Smith has promised to say, hey, we're going to make it right for you. If you bought whatever it is, Jazz TV or whatever, I don't know what they're actually calling it, but if you bought it and it's not working for you, we're going to take care of you. We'll make it right. And he's so far, everybody I've seen that had a complaint has said the Jazz have, done right by
fixed
them.
it.
So
well, good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
In the Lakers market, I can speak to this because they had just announced that Spectrum is creating their own streaming package. In fact, I believe, I want to say tonight's game against the Magic may be the first game that's accessible on it. I could be wrong, but I that sounds correct. But there's some pros. Like, it actually costs more than NBA League Pass does to get this, which isn't good. But League Pass is, if you want to see your team and you live in the local market, League Pass is useless because you're blacked out.
Yeah.
And you don't have the traditional cable package. So I think we need to see more and more of this. Like, hey, if you want to see all the teams' games this season and you live in market, but you don't have cable, because that's a lot of people now that don't have cable. Here, this is how you do it. I think that's going to be important for the league to address, and something that we're starting to see teams really get into.
Yep.
You mentioned the midseason tournament, and one of the big announcements the big announcement for today is that not only is there the in-season tournament, but the NBA has created special courts for every team to use during the in-season tournament. Now, these courts, this tells you they're invested. These courts cost, as I recall, it's a few $100,000 to create a floor like this. So
to be clear, these are 30 brand new courts.
Yep.
These are not like I love it that you pulled the one where
there it is.
Cycles through them. Now people are going to complain they're having seizures watching this, but that's okay. These are 30 new courts. These are not decals. These are not overlays. None of that stuff. These are 30 brand new courts for the in-season tournament.
It does move a little too fast. Like, is every team? I haven't checked. Is every team
they're
really
all on there.
It's 7 seconds. And they go through every team. This should be double the length of time so we can see all these a little bit.
If you go to the NBA's,
they have them all individually.
They have them all in there in a still image too that you can see.
Right.
So essentially what they did, Zach Lowe, go to ESPN, read the story, because really did a wonderful breakdown on this. They went to Adam Silver and said, hey, we want to do something special with the court for these in-season tournament games. And they said, we're thinking about kind of doing, just minor things to the court. And essentially it sounds like Adam Silver said, no, do more, go bigger, like be bolder, like let's really get crazy. And you'd see as these cycle through, some of these are like, whoa, man.
It's the same court. It's the same design for everybody. But yes, some of them are very, very, like the Suns one. The floor is purple. The Jazz have the purple. For the Lakers have a yellow floor. Like the
Celtics
this is going to
have
stand
a
out.
green floor. The Celtics, I'm not going to say their entire being, but I know the entirety of my dad watching them and all the way through now. So you're talking, 60 plus years, almost, 70 years for him
Mm-hmm.
as a Celtics fan. They've only ever played on the parquet at home. It's only ever been the parquet floor. And this is a brand new floor that is green, and it's like a dark green color for them. So it is it is something. So we'll see where it goes from here with this. But I'm all for go nuts. Let's try to make this thing special and stand out. For the people who are really complaining about these courts, it's going to be used 2 or 3 times. That's it, because there's only 2 or 3 home games that you'll host as one of these teams. So I'm fine with it. Like let's go nuts. Let's see what it looks like.
Keith, it's foiling my balm to all of those who hate the in-season tournament. Because what have we been saying? We've been saying just ignore it. If you don't like the in-season tournament, it's a regular season game. It still counts. I had somebody messaging me today saying everybody's just going to bench their starters for the in-season tournament.
Yeah,
like, no, it's a regular season game. Nobody's benching their starters. But I've been telling people, look, if you don't like the in-season tournament, if it really bothers you that much and you can't keep an open mind about it, and that's okay. If that's your fandom, that's fine. Ignore it. It's going to be impossible to ignore it with these floors. Everybody's going to know it. What do you think about the design in general? Like, it just, I'll admit my first reaction seeing the Lakers one was, oh my gosh, that's a lot of yellow. But looking at around the league, I kind of dig it. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, they are bold, and I want to see what they look like on TV. Right, that's what I really want to see, because these are just an image of what they may look like. They're not even the actual real things. A few of the real things have come out. I think the Miami Heat posted a image of what theirs looks like with that. So as I believe they've been getting delivered this week to these people. I do like that they did it as a new thing. This is the paint scheme on this, because you really run the risk if you did decals and all that stuff. That's when the players were slipping on them. They were hating it. That's unfortunately why there's no more trophy and finals script on the finals floors, because those were a decal that was put on the floor and the players didn't like it because they said they were slippery and they didn't feel safe. So I think all around, I'm fine with it. I have no problem with, if you want to go completely, bonkers wild with this and go nuts, like, go nuts with this. And I guarantee the vast majority of people who are like, this in season tournament is stupid, will like it by the time we get into like the knockout round. I think they will be like, you know what, this is actually kind of fun. Like, in the players, you put something to win in front of a whole bunch of competitive people, they're going to want to win it. Now, I'm not saying if you're in the group stage and you're 0-3 that you're going to go all out to win the 4th game, because now you don't have a chance to advance. So what do you care? Like, doesn't really matter.
No, it carries the same importance as a regular season game at that point. That's all it is.
That's it. Yep. You're going to carry it's 1 of 82 is what it becomes, because your part in the in-season tournament is over. But I think the knockout stage and deeper into the semifinals and the finals, you're going to see people wanting to win this thing and trying to win it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think guys will go for it. And really what they're doing is they're setting groundwork for generations from now to like whatever this is. Like these in-season domestic cups are huge over in Europe, both in soccer and in basketball. Both these are something that the people really love. I'll throw out an idea I have. I would like to see the G League Showcase precede the in-season tournament, and I'd like to see the G League Showcase go back to being a tournament format fully, and the 2 finalists get a berth into the in-season tournament.
I like it.
And then we make it a 32-team knockout tournament, and they play there, just because then it gives you even more of a domestic cup kind of feel to it, where it can be even more fun. Problem is, no NBA team's going to want to run the risk, no matter how unlikely it is, of losing to a G League team. But I still think we could get there eventually. It could be fun.
Exactly. It's just like how you don't see the top tier stars competing in the dunk contests a lot of times, because they don't want to run the risk of losing. Same reason why we never see a one-on-one tournament, because no players want to risk that. But I liked it from the fan perspective. I like the idea A lot. All right. De'Aaron Fox sprained his ankle last night against the Lakers. It was a pretty gross one. His ankle like touched the ground. Nasty. Hopefully he
I
gets
was
well
shocked he
soon.
came back in.
Me too. It was.
And then played well.
It was. It was nasty. You knew it was the kind of thing where it's going to be hurting the next day, and sounds like he is going to miss a decent amount of time for the Kings. So that's, again, we talk about injuries in the West and how important they're going to be. The Grizzlies dealing with it, of course. There's a number of teams, but now something for the Sacramento Kings to try to overcome here.
Yeah, and for the Kings, Davion Mitchell obviously will step in as a starting point guard.
Mm-hmm.
What becomes the challenge? We always talk about this is, unless it is the super duper duper star where everything is built around that one player and you lose them and it all goes south, it's rarely the one guy who goes down. It's what happens with the guys behind him.
Yep.
So Mitchell comes in. They don't really have another point guard on the roster until you get down to Jordan Ford, who's a two-way guy. So not the end of the world for the Kings because they run a lot of the offense through Domantas Sabonis anyway. I think Malik Monk can take some more on-ball reps and do things. Kevin Huerter, Chris Duarte, they can do a little bit with the ball in their hands as bigger players, but just going to be tricky. Now, the Kings do have an open roster spot, so it wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see them jump on, all right, we're going to do what we talked about a little bit with Biyombo. You're not allowed to do 10-day contracts. So sometimes what teams will do is they'll do it's a workaround where it's a non-guaranteed rest of season contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then you keep the guy for however long you want, and then you waive him from it. We may see Sacramento do that just to get another ball handler in the fold there, just to give them a little depth at the position for however long Fox is out. Because all they're saying right now, the reports is he's going to miss some time. So that means probably, my guess is a minimum of 2 weeks, maybe more. And it might be more just the way this looked.
Yeah. Yeah. That's certainly the concern there, is that it's going to be more, because that was, man, that was one of those ones where you hold your breath when you see it, because you're like, oh no, it was so bad. And he was in some real pain on the ground there.
I'll say, I know it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but what an awesome regular season game that was.
It ended up being crazy, just back and forth, and both teams going at each other and all of that, and missing huge shots for my team and all of that. But
I'll say too, I'm good with whenever he retires. I'm going to miss LeBron, but I'm going to be perfectly happy for no more of the catch it in the corner square and just rise and fire, while almost like daring the guy. Like, I dare you to try to block this because there's no way shots that you just every single time, they're going in. Like, it's just, I have way too many of bad memories of him doing that to the Celtics over the years. So I'm going to tip my cap and I'll miss him when he's gone, but I'm not going to miss those moments at all.
Well, Lakers fans are saying he's taken too many step back threes to begin with.
Yeah,
but I think he's cut down on those a little bit.
I'm just talking about the ones where there's not even a dribble, right? He just catches it, turns, squares, and goes right into it, and just while staring the defender down. I'm convinced he doesn't even look at the hoop when he shoots.
You may not need to at this point with the muscle memory.
Yeah, I think he just steals the soul of the defender and
that's it. That's it. Cam Johnson is going to be out 10 days, dealing with a calf issue for the Nets. So that's not ideal. He didn't have a great performance over the summer with Team USA, but a pretty important piece here for Brooklyn. So not good that you're going to be dealing with it. And calves can be kind of tricky too. Maybe not as notoriously as hamstrings are, but the calf can be, you got to make sure that's healed and you don't re-aggravate anything. We saw what it did to Joe Burrow this season. So not ideal.
And Nick Claxton also out for the Nets. That sounds like it's shorter term thing. Should be back in another game or two. They're both not going to play tonight. Obviously Johnson out for a week and a half or so, and then Claxton's out tonight at least. But yeah, this is a little worrisome for a Nets team that they don't have great depth. Their starting group is okay, and they can, I think, be very competitive with that group, but the depth's a little shaky. But hey, this means more Cam Thomas, the greenest green light in the league. Like, he's going to let him fly and probably keep scoring. That dude is just filling it up. But the Nets need their guys because they're, again, it's 2 games, but 0-2, and it's not the Western Conference full battle 1 through 12, but the East play-in picture is really muddy, and you don't want to all out too much and lose too much ground. I had somebody say to me that collectively we're all way too high on the Nets, just plugging them in as at least a play-in team. And I was like, yeah, there could be something to that.
Sure, it could be. I mean, they're like you said, their depth isn't great, but they need their guys out there. They need their guys out there. Although I've been pretty high on Mikal Bridges, and so that's part of the reason why I've been high on the Nets in general. Chris Paul, indeed, coming off the bench, came off the bench last night. So looks like that's going to be a thing. This is it was like such a big story over the summer. Like, is he really going to come off the bench? It's not the end of the world. Like, as long as Chris Paul is okay with it, like there's nothing wrong with coming off the bench. Like you can do it and you move forward and you can make it not, but it felt like it became such a big deal over the summer.
I think the bigger question is when all 5 starters are there plus him is who closes games. I think that's a much bigger deal. My guess is you'll go with Chris Paul and you'll just put Looney on the bench unless you need the size and the rebounding out there, because then you close with the way you've been closing for years with the Warriors, with Draymond at the 5 and Chris Paul out there. But you gotta, scoring wise, that's probably going to be the thing that takes the biggest hit with him coming off the bench. But 8 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, like just did Chris Paul stuff and went out there and really, I mean, it was funny because him and the rest of the Warriors bench just tortured the Rockets bench last night. I mean, just that's where the game turned, and it turned into a blowout and everything else. Not a blowout, I guess the Warriors didn't win by that much, but that was the difference in the game. Was the Warriors bench was much better than the Rockets bench, and if that's what Chris Paul gives them, that's what Chris Paul gives them.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that Chris Paul's addition it has largely worked, but as long as this bench thing and the closing line doesn't become a problem with anybody, well, that's going to be the biggest, most important piece here.
I think it was. I just want to make sure I have the number right. Yeah, that was the first time in 1,217 regular season games. So first time he's ever come off the bench, and then you throw another 149 playoff games on top of that. So that is still something, right?
That's a lot.
1,300 plus games, and now something new this late in his career. But if hey, this maybe gets him a couple extra years of playing time, then I'm all for it.
All right, last thing we've got, Cooper Flagg commits to Duke, already has a magazine cover out. That was good timing there. But it's certainly a player to watch. It's supposed to be kind of the next big thing coming into the NBA. So someone to keep an eye on, and he will be attending Duke.
So I first heard about Cooper Flagg from a cousin that lives in Maine, and he told me, this would be 3 years ago when Cooper Flagg was like 13 years old, because he's only 16 right now. He reclassified. So he will graduate this year from Montverde Academy, which is right down the road from me here in Florida. Like I could get there in 15, 20 minutes from my house. So I go over there a decent chunk to watch kids play, because they are also just a haven for NBA first round picks. They crank them out there like left and right. RJ Barrett played there, Scotty Barnes, Joel Embiid. So a whole bunch of guys spent time at Montverde. So anyway, but I first heard about him. My cousin was at an AAU tournament in New England, and he's like, dude, this kid, Cooper Flagg, on the, I think it's Maine United is who he plays for. And he was like, this kid's amazing. And he's like, this kid's going to play in the NBA. He's huge. He can handle the ball. He can shoot. He can do everything. And I was kind of like, that's interesting. I'm like, he's from Maine. Like, that seems unlikely, but sure. Why not? And then I just kept hearing about him. He is awesome. My comps for this kid is Gordon Hayward on offense. Like, he's the same size, can handle, can shoot, can pass. And he reminds me an awful lot of like Andre Karolinko on defense. Oh, he's about the same size. He's real lanky, but he's good shot blocker. He's a pretty physical player. He's got long arms, so he racks up steals. I will be shocked if he is not the number 1 overall draft pick in the 2025 draft. So yes, we're way out ahead of this one, but you're going to hear nothing but this kid's name for the next 2 years, because this draft, cycle that we're going into is as of today, it's supposed to be a down draft. Now, so was this past year's, and it ended up, or not this past year, because they had Wembanyama 2 years ago with Banchero and Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith at the top, and it ended up being a pretty good class. So I'm not fully out on this year's draft class yet, but it is supposed to be a little down. So you're going to hear a lot of Cooper Flag talk. And obviously at Duke, he's going to be on TV. But again, that's not this year. That is next year. He'll be at Duke. And then it's the 2025 draft is when he'll pop up as available. But go watch his highlights. I know ESPN put a bunch of stuff out there, and you'll probably come away saying, wow, yeah, this kid is something else for his size and skill combination and everything else. And personally, just, he's from Maine, like a Mainer being this big time in the NBA, still goes home and plays for Maine United in AAU ball, which is really cool. Like, he hasn't joined one of the teams where they meet each other with name tags on 5 minutes before the game and just get thrown together. And he still plays with all of his friends and buddies and everything. So yeah, cool story. And I've seen him play at Montverde too, and he's the real deal.
Yeah, this is going to be, of course, something to keep an eye on here. As we get in, again, we're a long way off right now, but as we get into, draft season and all of that, this is certainly something to watch. And again, we're not even talking, over almost a year from now, but still, Cooper Flag, a name to remember, guy to check out. Go check out some of those clips, because this is probably going to be a big deal, whatever team winds up getting him.
The other thing too, right? He, call it what it is. He's a white American-born player. Like, there's going to be a narrative that we haven't had a great white American-born player come into the league in a very long time. And there's just, people can say that's not cool, but I just know how this hype, train works. We're going to get a lot of that, here, where it's like, all right, let's see what this kid is. Let's see what he becomes. My guess is by the time he's coming in, it's not going to be Wembanyama, because that is just a whole other thing. But it's going to be like the Zion hype level was coming in. Like, probably even more, because Zion we heard about him, but not when he still had a full year of high school left. Like this, like he's going to play on ESPN a lot in what is now his senior year at Montverde Academy. He'll appear there a lot, and then we're going to see him regularly. Obviously when he's at Duke, every single game will be on TV somewhere. So yeah, he's going to be something. I'm excited to watch it all develop over the next 2 years. And I'll use this as a little bit of a place to say, because I'm not covering the Celtics day to day anymore, and because I can't just step back from just doing less work, I'm going to do a little bit more draft work this year. So we'll be able to add that into the show as we go. We're going to do some stuff on Spot Track probably. It will not be, I'm not going to by any means consider myself a draft guy, but I plan to be far more up on the draft than I usually am, which is good, because a lot of the guys in this draft, like, I don't really know much about the top prospects. So we'll be diving in on them as all of their seasons will start up here in the next weeks to months to go.
That means our draft night live show, a yearly custom, is going to be all the more informative for this coming season. I like it.
Yeah, I won't be cramming 2 weeks out of, all right, let's get in a whole bunch of synergy watches of these guys and try to figure them out. I've actually seen them all play, hopefully, quite a bit.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. I think that's going to wrap things up for us today. We'll be back tomorrow with all the latest going on around the NBA. We sure do appreciate when you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are pushing for 30,000 subscribers. And don't forget to follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.